The following program is brought to you by Fanbags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with Fanbags Cornhole.
It's Zach Edey with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Purdue Boilers in the Stands post-game show. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Joe Jackson and Kraig Bowers. We're doing it up. I fumbled the lead because I'm just so excited from the finish to that game. Ice water in his veins. Braden Smith with 4 seconds left on the shot clock, only up 3. Puts the dagger in the Illinois Fighting Illini's hopes of sharing a Big Ten title, and Purdue is your outright Big Ten champs here in the 2024 regular season. What a game it was, ladies and gentlemen. They had, once again, no answer for the soon-to-be two-time National Player of the Year. Braden Smith obviously finished with the big one at the end. Fletcher Lawyer, Big Onions Lawyer, who always shows up in the big moments, seems to have, the lid on the hoop for him. The last few games seems to have come off. And, Illinois could not have played a better game in the first half up against Purdue. And, only up, 6 at halftime. And Purdue holds Illinois to 31 points in the second half, really locking down defensively. We're going to get into it all tonight, but I'm going to kick it around the horn. Kraig, your instant reaction to another huge win for Purdue this season. They're 27th on the year.
Well, I mean, I think you could go a lot of places, right? Like there's a lot of different people you could point to and say, man, if he doesn't do this, if this guy doesn't do that. Really thought it was a team effort all the way around. And I know people are going to point to the bench points and really only Gillis stepped up there, but there were other bench contributions other than just points. But I think you have to start with what Purdue did defensively. Illinois has been like, I don't know if you guys remember that call for Secretariat. Like you probably do from the movie, Joe. He wasn't old enough to watch, nor was I. As he's coming around the turn, and it's like he's moving like a tremendous machine. That's Illinois' offense, right? That's who they've been since Terrence Shannon got back with Marcus Damask, and it's just been an amazing force. And Purdue in that second half just stepped up, and they played good defense in the first half. They played amazing defense in the second half, and I know both of you probably were following some of my tweets, and you know where I'm going to go with that defense primarily when we get to that point. But man, to hold Shannon and Damask in check like they did, and really if Quincy Guerrier doesn't get going in that first half, you would say it was just an amazing defensive performance all the way around tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Gary goes 3 of 4 from 3. The rest of the team, Illinois goes 1 for 12. I think Purdue was a little fortunate that Illinois. There was a couple bounces that Illinois probably should have made, but in the same time, the second half was just so much better defensively. And we're gonna defense is something we're very much gonna dive into today because it is a big talking point when you have Illinois and Purdue easily 2 of the top 5 offenses in the country, but Illinois doesn't have a Zach Edey down low where they can just consistently go to. They have Domask who can get his and did get his to an extent, but then I mean Braden Smith just absolute 2 daggers of threes. You know, there's one with 4 minutes left, 5 minutes left, late shot clock. Shannon and he obviously has the one right at the end of the game, hits the 9-9 celebration after. Lawyer steps up big, and we're going to talk a lot about Lawyer too because Lawyer on paper, Lawyer should have been played off the floor in this game, and he was not in any sense of the form. So this was a huge game because honestly, this was a game that coming in, I wasn't too confident in Purdue, truthfully. I just didn't think I thought Illinois is a bad matchup for them. And then you get that first half, and then Purdue just controls the second half, 43-31 in the second half. And they're just, Edey's doing his thing. You finally get everybody else to step up on the perimeter. This is a different team than last year, and this game is a huge example of that.
Yeah, William Bill here in the chat said, so I guess we could probably call him William Bill here. This is definitely, Bill says, this is definitely a different team from last year, echoing your sentiments. And it's 100%. Going into the game, I tweeted out from our Boilers in the Stands Twitter account, and make sure you're following that if you aren't already. A lot of good content from the championship celebration. Some of that stuff is also on Facebook. Please, we got a large live viewing crowd right now. Hit that like button while you're hanging out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We go live for every post-game show immediately following the game on road games. Home games, we're at Mackey Arena. We go live once the celebration and the music stops at Mackey. So we're always here for you. This is your home for Purdue Boilermakers basketball and breakdown here in March Madness, and it's exciting stuff. But when you talk about this being a different season, last year we brought it up a few times. The last few games, they lost 4 of 6 to end the year, and that was backing their way into a number 1 seed, backing their way into winning a Big Ten regular season championship. And so that's the difference. Is this team has not backed into it. This team has taken what they've earned as far as winning a Big Ten championship, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything else plays out. And then the other aspect of it, too, is, like I said, I tweeted it from the Boilers in the Stands account before the game started. What a litmus test of maturity for this team. They just come off a championship celebration at Mackey Arena Saturday night. Some of them players did not leave Mackey until 12:31 in the morning, and it was a late night, quick turnaround here to a Tuesday night game on the road, the second toughest team in the conference. They've been playing good basketball here since their top player has been back, from his suspension or, where they asked him to sit here for a little bit for his off the court, allegations. So, for this team to come there on the road and take care of business when they were down at halftime, and the resiliency they just continue to show and not blink and keep going into their system, keep feeding it into Zach Edey. Zach Edey was cool, calm, and collected. There's been games this year where guys can get him fired up or stirred up, and he's turning over the basketball. And, he got a little bit of fouls today, but overall, Zach Edey was the calming force that kept them in it time and again. They had no answer for him. Coleman Hawkins is going to be taking an ice bath tonight with the work that Zach Edey was putting on him. So these guys didn't blink. Tonight. They could have just laid an egg. They just come off a championship celebration. They're on the road. It would have been a quad 1 loss. Wouldn't have hurt their resume at all. Instead, they stay with it, and they knock out Illinois' chances of winning a regular season Big Ten share of the title. I mean, that's just showing a level of maturity that they didn't necessarily have last year. I 100% agree with you and Bill.
And that's maturity coming from two of the three or four most important players. Two of the four most important players today were sophomores, and Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. Like, that's maturity. Also, obviously, they started last year. They're different than most sophomores at this point of the season, but like this is still, you still have some young pieces. It isn't like a fully senior led team type where it's, fourth years and fifth years and some sixth years even that are running this. This is a mix of young and old. You have the best player in the country in Zach Edey. You have one of the best point guards in the country in Braden Smith. And now you have that first half. The difference between the first and the second half was the first half, nobody really stepped up outside of Edey. The second half, you had everybody step up. Purdue went 8 for 10 from 3 in the second half. Braden Smith 3 of 3, Fletcher Lawyer 2 of 2, Mason Gillis 2 of 3, Lance Jones 1 of 2. You're getting that. You're getting good defensive contributions from Heidi. You're getting even decent defensive contributions from some of the other guards. Like, this was just, that second half was just it was crazy. And even like, there was a couple times where, they get the lead, or though they got up to 6, right? They got the lead up to 6. Illinois immediately 6-0 run, minute and a half. Purdue doesn't blink. They still eventually regain control, win this game. Just a huge game.
Unbelievable. And that atmosphere was electric. You could see it before the game even started. I've been over to that arena multiple times over the last 5 or 6 years since I moved back down here. And that place was dead when I went to watch the Carson Edwards team. Like, I bought like 4th row seats for like $40, and that arena was silent. So, I mean, credit to Underwood and what he's done in terms of bringing that environment back and elevating the program again. But to go in there, and you could tell, right? There were just some shots in the first half that you're like, man, that's off. Like, like Edey threw one at the rim. Lance was like a foot off on a 3-point shot, and just multiple guys. And then it was just a matter of them like settling down and settling in and getting to that point. But that was a raucous, terrifying environment, especially during the first half when Illinois was on a move. But Joe, and I don't want to jump the stats thing here, but this is just so mind-blowing to me because of the keys to the game that we put up before the game.
Yep.
And like either number 1 or number 2, I think it was number 1, stop the ball on fast breaks. How many fast break points did Purdue give up tonight, Joe?
It looks like they had 2 per the stats. 2
points.
Yeah.
Purdue gave up 2 effing fast break points to this Illinois team. That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And there was times where Illinois looked like they wanted to, and Purdue did a good enough job of just getting back, right? It wasn't always perfect. It wasn't elite, but they did a good enough job. And that's just when you force them into half court. And then Illinois can also be dominant in half court, but Purdue was able to do just enough. And that's all that matters.
Well, and how many times did you hear Robbie Hummel say, he said it a couple times on the telecast, this is a man's game. And, Braden Smith was muscling his guy up. Camden Heidi, a couple guys had leverage to get down the court quick, and he's chasing it down and getting in front of his guy. Lance Jones has been known to do that all season long. And so as much as we focus in on, the offensive impact and what they're doing to put points on the board, I mean, there certainly is, this layer of defensive, ability, that they didn't necessarily have in terms of length and athleticism and, like I said, ability with Lance Jones. He may not have the length in his, athleticism, but he certainly has the try-hardness. And he does not give up. He runs through screens. He chases you down. He makes life miserable for you. Then Camden Heidi's got the speed, athleticism, and length to, get in front of his guy and make life tough on you. So, and obviously we all know the scrappiness that Braden Smith carries with him. So, that's an aspect on the perimeter that's just really elevated, their ability to win games. Now, the one thing we talk about, and somebody brought it up in the chat, and I pulled it up for a second, but, Drake Hobbs said there is never a panic in this team. And I completely agree. They've shown that here over the last 3 or 4 games where it seems like, because the one thing I'm not really worried about, but I will be critical of, is they're letting teams throw the first punch here. Over the last couple weeks, every team, whether it's on the home or road, seems to get out to an early lead. And just being the Purdue fan that I want to see them just dominate every minute of the game. And I understand that that's an unrealistic expectation. But if there's one thing that I'm sitting here going, okay, what can they get better at? It's getting out the gates hot. But at the same time, to Drake's point, there is no panic in them. Even when that team gets out to and throws that first punch, they stay with it. They win the war of attrition. A lot of times they wear you out and win that battle of the fouls where, the other team just is starting to lose rotations and lose players to foul trouble. That you really didn't see that here tonight, but they just don't panic. They stay with it, and then they eventually win the fight because of their talent and their ability and their depth.
Yeah, 100%. And even at halftime, right? I don't know how you guys personally felt, but I was like, being down 6, it's just like, it feels like it should be much, much worse. Like Purdue gets some shots to go, which they did. Purdue gets some shots to go, plays a little bit better defense. It's like the game's right there, right? It felt like they were never like out of it, like Illinois could have done in the first half. And like you said, just stay with it, no panic, and that's how you get a W.
We got Dead Hoosier here in the chat saying 400 people watching. Hit that like button. I think Dead Hoosier's watching from YouTube. We actually have 1,400 people watching the show right now. And we get some pretty good numbers here these last couple years, but this is probably one of our top shows as far as the viewership live is concerned. We're very proud of the work we've put in here at Boilers in the Stands here the last few years, and we appreciate the community that's been with us. But anybody that's new to this is what we do. If you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, we stream live across all 3 platforms, including YouTube. So if you can hop over to the YouTube channel at some point, if you're watching from Facebook and Twitter, and like the show and subscribe to the channel, you're going to just help grow this even bigger, because we all know we got a long road here coming up in March. You got the Big Ten tournament right around the corner. Purdue has locked up a number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. That was still at stake, along with a share of the Big Ten title. So Purdue clinches both those things. And guys, I don't know, you guys will know better than me, with 1 game left against Wisconsin and then however it plays out in the Big Ten tournament. Is there any scenario where Purdue Boilermakers do not have the number 1 overall seed, or at the very least do not have the home court advantage to start in Indianapolis the first 2 rounds of the March Madness tournament?
They've had Indianapolis to Detroit locked up for honestly a couple weeks. And it helps with the way that the 1 seeds are going to work out. Is Purdue's locked into a 1 seed, UConn's locked into a 1 seed, Houston's locked into a 1 seed. So and they're going to take Midwest, East, and like none of them are fighting for region. Nobody in the Midwest is even close to taking away from Purdue. They could lose by 30 to Wisconsin and get smoked in the first round of the Big Ten championship. They have Indy to Detroit. I'm like locked up. I don't. Right, like I'm not being over exaggeration there.
No, you're not over exaggerating, and especially, before tonight, maybe it was a question of like, well, if they lost tonight, lost to Wisconsin, lost in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, maybe because then if Tennessee won out, they would have had the exact same record as Tennessee. So maybe you could have thrown something in there about like a late season swan, But now it's done. I think it's absolutely done at this point. Even if Purdue would lose against Wisconsin, lose in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, I think Purdue still has that Midwest region locked up for sure. And I want to dive back real quick to what you guys were saying. And Joe, what you were saying is I've brought this up multiple times. I've never felt the only game that I was like, we're going to lose this game is Nebraska. Now we lost 2 other games, but at no point have I felt like, oh, we're not going to come back and win this game, just because Purdue puts so much pressure on you for 40 minutes. And somebody in the chat asked, like, well, why did Illinois switch their defense against Zach in the second half? Well, he missed like 5 or 6 bunnies in the first half. Like, Zach was getting whatever we wanted, and Illinois tried to switch it up and try to prevent those good looks because he was starting to heat up. And then as soon as they did that, boom, Zach sprays out. I think we hit 2 threes right off the back.
1 to Smith and 1 to Lawyer.
Just opened it up right away. But like, this team is different. I'm telling you, and whatever, you guys can be as nervous about March as you want. This team is different, because I never get worried about this team at any point in time. Somebody steps up. Lance Jones was friggin' 1 of 7 tonight. 1 of 7, and buries that corner 3. Braden Smith buries that 3 with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. This team is different.
Mason Gillis too. Mason Gillis hit a couple of huge threes. I believe one to take their first lead of the night, right? Was he the one that put them ahead? Right. Regardless, that was
3. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a couple. He had one in the corner, and then he had that one in transition. those are big time shots. Mason Gillis, and the one where he walked into it, that's not necessarily his game, right? I mean, he's not going to hit too many of those this year. I mean, he's certainly capable, but it just goes to show you, what this team is capable of and how everyone's really filling into their roles. Fletcher Lawyer, guys, I mean, he stepped up in such a big way, hit some really clutch threes. What did they start? 0 for 4 from 3 on the day, and what did they finish for the game?
9 of 16.
They were 1 of 6 from 3 in the first half and 8 of 10 in the second half.
Yeah,
I mean that's big onions. That's big onions, and they have no more. They have no more true road games the rest of the year. That was the last one.
Yeah,
and when we talk about Indianapolis,
hey, Greg, what's our record in neutral games over the last 3 years?
Gee, I wonder. Oh, that would be undefeated in the regular season, of course. But in March Madness, we all understand what's at stake here, right? And Braden Smith and those guys, Zach Edey, when he said run it back, they've talked about it. They understand that this is the demon they got to slay, right? And so they've been undefeated in neutral sites for the last 3 years. That's great. And now it's time to slay the demon that is March Madness. But a couple years ago, St. Peter's neutral road game, right? But hey, that was 20 minutes from St. Peter's campus in Philadelphia. That was a home game for them in a lot of ways. I was there, and it was a raucous crowd of every St. Peter's alum that has ever existed. But that's why I'm talking about, hey, I want to know if Indianapolis and Detroit is secure for their road to the Final Four, because we all understand how Purdue fans travel, but you've got we just saw it with the Michigan game the other day, where the players and coaches and media that were there were like, we've never seen anything like this. That was in Michigan. That will be the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games if Purdue is to advance to the second round, the third and fourth round of this tournament, or the second weekend, I should say. So, no more true road games, but potentially 4 what could feel like home games, with Indy being on Friday and Sunday of March Madness, and then the second weekend in Detroit. So, you talk about this team being different. You talk about, just look at the national champions last year in UConn. Certainly a talented team, no question about it, earned every inch of it. But they had some things fall their way on their road there. So you need to, Tom Izzo said it. Kraig cut the clip. We put it on Twitter the other day where Tom Izzo said, hey, man, that tournament is a nightmare, because there's just a lot of different variables that come into play. And, you've got that, quick turnaround for that second game in each weekend, and you're going to play a team that's, hot, and you get a short scouting report on them. But, Purdue has a chance here to right some wrongs, and exercise some demons and have a home crowd behind them, like we saw in that Elite 8 run, some years back when they fell to Virginia, in overtime. So I'm excited for it. We'll get into the rest of it here.
Let me jump in real quick before we change subject. Purdue fans obviously do travel. We've filled up Indy, filled up the Michigan game. Purdue fans do have to do that if you're able to, because it is going to be, there's usually 4 teams in each spot, or there might be 8 in the first round. It is going to be the only people that are going to be rooting for Purdue at every single stop along the way is Purdue fans. Everybody else is just how the season's gone. Like, everybody else will be against Purdue. And so, like, Purdue fans have the chance to make it more of a home field, but all 3 other schools are most likely going to be against Purdue. Just, how it goes when you're one of the best teams in the country, on top of having what happened last season. So just wanted to throw that in really quick before we moved on.
100%. And we'll do that. And I completely agree and echo those sentiments. So let's take another little break here. Give a shout out to some of our sponsors, and then we'll move on to the next segment here on our show.
Yeah. So first, just want to give a shout out to Autograph. They're, newer sponsor for us. And just really appreciate them, working with us. But they're a really cool app for pretty much all of your Purdue sports in one single spot. So you go onto Autograph. It is free to sign up. Use code BITS. You use that, get on for free. very easy to use. And now you're going to have all your podcast articles, anything like that. From, ours is going to be on there, Boiler Upload, some of Black and Gold's podcasts and stuff like that. Like anything like that will be in one specific spot for you. So it's just really nice. And it's obviously not just Purdue. If you're a fan of other colleges, you can add them, potentially pro sports teams as well. And then also there's just rewarding you for being a fan. So there's different leaderboards that you can kind of show where you're at. The more you interact with articles and other people and podcasts and all of that stuff that you already do anyways. And then there's also actual tickets. They have 2 or I believe 3 ticket packages dropping for the Purdue, Wisconsin senior night, Zach Edey's final game at Mackey Arena. All you got to do, use code BITS, log on, and then just, turn on like your notifications and that. There's a QR code right here. You can use that, sign up, use code BITS, and then you'll be entered for 3 ticket packages. There are 2 tickets, $16 a piece for Wisconsin. And if anybody has looked at Wisconsin ticket prices like I have, they are $300, $400 plus. I actually haven't checked in the last week. They might be more at this point. Just really good deal. And they're just really good app.
And Joe, the bigger thing to me is like, this is just an app that I can fully get behind. Because all you have to do is be a fan. Like legitimately, the only thing you have to do is download a free app, be a fan, consume the content that you're already consuming, and you get the chance to buy tickets at true fan pricing that's way lower than what you can buy it on a third-party market. And you get entered into special reward deals where you potentially might get like a trip to the Elite Eight on a VIP experience just for doing what you're already doing. That's why I personally love this app and can 100% fully get behind it.
Yeah, 100%. So once again, use that QR code you see here on the screen. Obviously, if you're just listening on the audio, use the information that we told you. Head over to Autograph and use the promo code BITS when you sign up. But you can use that QR code if you're watching here on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. So shout out to Autograph. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on Boilers in the Stands. Once again, please hit that like button while you're hanging out. If you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, please head over to the YouTube channel, subscribe to our channel. We appreciate however you're watching us, but it certainly helps us, when it comes to YouTube, kind of grow this thing and helps push us to maybe some fans that haven't found us yet. But I know a lot of more fans are going to be finding us here in March because the games are only going to get more important as we go. Tonight was one of the biggest games of the year. I mean, somebody was asking if they do get to Indy, which it looks like they will for March Madness, what stadium will they be playing in? Lucas Oil, Gamebridge? They'll be playing in Gamebridge. And the last time we were in Gamebridge was against Purdue versus Arizona earlier this year. And you want to talk about a heavyweight bout that Purdue really stepped up in. That was that game. And Braden and Fletcher Lawyer went off in that game as well. So let's get into this a little more. Let's kick it around. Where do you guys want to take it next? You want to get into a little more team stats?
Let's do some of the stats.
I know so many people, Joe, are looking for your X's and O's on the dry erase board, but we can
go to it if we want.
It's totally up to you. Do we want to keep them waiting, or do we want to do? Well, let's do the dry erase board. We've talked so much about the individual play and team play, so we'll shake it up here. So for those of you that don't know, Joe always does the X's and O's with Joe here. And he kind of breaks it down on his dry erase board with his, infinite knowledge of the game. And we all get smarter from this segment. So, Joe, why don't you go ahead and teach us something here?
So yeah, we'll do one offensive, one defensive, and we can always, if you guys have things in the comments, you're like, hey, can you try to break this down? Just throw it in the comments and we'll try to get to it. If there's time and all that. This first one, they ran it last game and they ran it again this game. It's just kind of, we've talked about before. For anybody that's watched, Purdue just does such a good job with their spacing, getting Edey good looks, kind of just in the middle of the floor. And this is an example, really just one that's no different. And so it starts out with this, right? Ball up top in Braden Smith's hands. Lawyer, he cut out here. Jones cuts out here. Gillis slaps up. So ball went here, and as that's happening, it's just really simple, right? It doesn't always have to be super complex offense that we know Purdue can and will run. Simple pass, simple cut, and all this is going to do is Edey he's just going to seal this entire area. And so now you can look at the spacing, right? As we kind of space it back out. You have Gillis here. You're going to have Jones here. Lawyer because he's respected as a shooter so much, it makes it hard for his defender to come and drop down. So now, as I erase, we reset. Edey has his man sealed here. Defender doesn't want to help off here. Defender doesn't want to help off Gillis, a 50% three-point shooter. They'll help off Jones some, but Jones obviously can make plays. We know Smith can make plays. And so now it's just a simple pass. Edey can seal, and he can get buckets. And I think today, especially Purdue, just did such a good job of opening up this middle, right? Sometimes Edey gets a ton of work on these blocks where he catches it, goes to work. And there definitely was that today for sure, especially more in the second half. But early on, like it was a lot of, and just this type of play, but however variation, whatever cuts before, it could be a high-low where the ball gets up here and throws into the middle. There's just so many ways that they can do it. They get Edey the ball in the middle, and yet, like, obviously Edey is dominant and the best player in the country. But on top of that, like, Purdue just does such a good job of creating space for him. And then the one other thing that I wanted to add, or did you have something, Greg? It sounded like maybe.
No,
Okay.
I don't. I mean, you're doing great. I would say just in terms of them getting it into Edey before you bring in the next one. Like, I think the last couple games, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Edey is really getting into his motion as the pass is coming in. You know, instead of waiting for the pass to come to him and then start to kind of try to gain a little momentum and body his guy up a little more towards the hoop, I'm seeing a little more, leverage as the pass is coming in, or kind of turning his body and receiving the pass kind of in rhythm instead of just waiting, catching, then going. It's all kind of happening in one unison. And I feel like that they've kind of made a point to that here the last few games. So even the national player himself in the last month of his career with Purdue is elevating his game to the next step.
And Greg, I know you haven't been on every post-game show, but we've brought that up a few different times, that when Edey's in the middle of the floor, they actually started this pretty early in the season. When Edey's in the middle of the floor, he's sealing to the side and he's catching that ball, kind of stepping into his first move. And it's not just been Smith. It's been multiple guys hitting him where they're throwing the ball so that he's catching it as he's going towards the rim. And he's added that little two-step runner, and every time he does it, you can see the other team waving for travel. And it's like, the dude's 7'4". He can cover 9 feet off two steps, catching it on the move towards the basket. And it's just a beautiful little addition that Painter and Edey have put in to the repertoire this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Derek Mulligan been saying this. He is much more active first rather than waiting and catching. So we're all kind of seeing this here, all on the same page. So, Joe, what else do you got for us for your dry erase board session here? X's and O's with Joe.
Yeah, so this one's on defense, and we can always talk about Domask, but when you talk about Domask and how Purdue had to defend him, it's a lot of just communicating ball screens, right? It's, are we switching? Am I in drop coverage? And what drop coverage means that the big's just going to Edey usually. When a ball guy comes off the screen, Edey's just going to drop back, keeping the ball handler and the roller in front. But with how the matchups worked, right? We saw Braden Smith was on Terrence Shannon Jr. Terrence Shannon had 11 points on 3 of 13 shooting. And this is, if this might have been Braden Smith's second best defensive game, because last game he was insanely good. But one thing that Illinois loves running for Terrence Shannon in the half court is just a staggered pin down. And so I'll make the X's. X's mean that Illinois is on offense. Those are the Illinois offensive guys. So you have Terrence Shannon in the corner here. Ball is up top, and it's just 2 screens right here, and Terrence Shannon's going to fly off. And I think it was the first bucket of the game. You saw Braden Smith trail, where he's like trying to follow Terrence Shannon, and all Terrence Shannon did was curl, get to here. He missed it, but immediately got the putback because he just had such good positioning and all of that. So he was able just to recover his miss really quickly, go up, right? And this is, again, this is a matchup that Illinois should love to have, Terrence Shannon on Braden Smith. But what Braden Smith eventually started doing is just being smart with these screens. If he knew that he didn't have to go over the top, he would just undercut. And so as Terrence Shannon's here, now Braden Smith's meeting him here. Instead of Terrence Shannon catching it more of the free throw line area, he's now catching it out here. Braden Smith, he's going to be in this area, just trying to force a drive more this way instead of fully down to the rim, forcing it this way, because right now there's going to be a defender here. Oftentimes that would be Edey. He's going to be able to roll in and help, or if Edey's over here, he can sag in that way and help. Just a really, really good job. Like holding Terrence Shannon to 11 points. We talked about the transition, right? And Terrence Shannon is elite in transition. Purdue held him check there, but even in the half court, that was a matchup that worried me a ton. And Braden Smith did his job. 11 points, 3 of 13 shooting from Terrence Shannon with 5 of 5 from the free throw line. You take that every single time if you're Purdue with Braden Smith on Terrence Shannon, because then it forced, like, Purdue didn't have to try to scram and, okay, we need to play a huge defensive lineup and all that. Like, they just lived with it because Illinois, for the most part, wasn't able to just take advantage of the size mismatches that they had.
Yeah, Shannon's a lot like Ivy in that his primary game comes in fast break points, right? If he can get downhill, if he can build up a head of steam, and then once he makes some of those and sees the ball go through, then his half court game really starts to step up. And Purdue just didn't ever let him get going. And you saw that there was one play in the half court where he kind of got downhill. It was kind of maybe like a secondary break, and he runs into Lawyer. And on the replay, that wasn't a foul. Lawyer was completely standing still in legal guarding position. Shouldn't have been called a foul. But he put so much pressure on the refs. And like we saw Jaden do that. Jaden would put so much pressure on the refs. He would get calls that on the replay, you're like, maybe not. But we never let Shannon get going from that standpoint of really putting that onus on the refs of whether they had to make a call or not. And by not getting those easy fast break points, he never got going in the half court either.
Yeah, Johnny's saying it, and I'm saying it too. It's a great comparison.
It's a good call.
It's a really good one. He moves just like him. And I haven't seen too many people bring that up. And that is why you are the expert analyst here on Boilers in the Stands. We did have a couple of requests here, and we promised we were going to talk defense. And so Derek Mulligan is asking, can you show how Purdue slowed down the fast break? Was it just shooting and rebounding, or was it something intentionally done? And John Randall was asking the same thing. So we're getting a few requests, putting you on the spot here, Joe. How did Purdue hold Illinois to 2 points on fast break points here today?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of like, I don't know if there's as much maybe on the board, but more just verbal. Like it's simple, but they just got back. Like they had multiple guards try to get back early. Obviously, Edey is always going to fight for offensive rebounds. He's one of, if not the best offensive rebounder in the country. You're going to have him stay down there. But oftentimes Purdue is going to crash the glass a lot. And I don't think they did it quite as much with these guards. You also see at times Lance Jones, Camden Heidi, even Braden Smith, if needed, like they will pick up. I guess I can go to it a little bit.
There we go.
So they will go, instead of like, everybody just running back, say like the ball's here, Illinois is going down here, right? And ball's here. What the one guard would sometimes do is just pick up in this area. And so all you're trying to do is just kind of force them to go horizontal just enough, right? You know that in general, you're not going to stop them from eventually getting down here, but you want to just hesitate for 1 to 2 seconds, because if you can force them horizontal this way, what that's going to allow is everybody else to start getting back. And so if they aren't throwing ahead, right, if they aren't making like a skip pass up to somebody up here immediately, take another, it is very, very quick, and the rest of the defenders have to be able to get back quickly, right? Running the lanes, usually on the outside. Edey's going to run down the middle. But just force them horizontal a little bit, and you're just, it's almost like, teams will play like a token pressure where it's like, Purdue would do it too, right? When Lance Jones picks up somebody, even after a dead ball, he'll pick him up here. All they're trying to do is just slow down this ball handler just enough, allow everybody else to get back, get set. And then also I think they did a good job of kind of stacking in the paint at times where, like, in transition, Terrence Shannon, he's going to put his head down, he's going to get in the paint, and he's either going to try to finish at the rim or try to draw a foul. And I think Purdue did a better job of having guys there ready.
And maybe the most important thing is Purdue only had 8 turnovers, right?
Yeah.
And I think they had 5 or 6 in the first half. A lot of those in the first 10 minutes of the first half. So
5 in the first half. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 in the first half, 8 total. And obviously the easiest way to start a fast break is off a live ball turnover. And a lot of, even within those 8, several of those turnovers were dead ball turnovers, or like Edey catching it down low. So you're turning the ball over right underneath the basket. So your defense behind that is still kind of already set up. It's not your guards turning the ball over up top. Really, a couple of times that Illinois got out and pushed the ball was when Fletch drove to the basket. So you had a guard driving to the rim, Braden was kind of off to the side maybe in that particular package. So you didn't have a couple of guards standing back there behind that to slow people down. But just all around, I mean, everything that Joe said, and then limiting those live ball turnovers so they're not getting it at the top of the key or at the free throw line and being able to just see an open lane ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that too. No turnovers or limiting turnovers. And then the couple fast break opportunities Illinois had was, I think there was 2 off of Lawyer missed layups and 1 off of maybe a Jones missed layup. And that's just, like you said.
And at the end of the game, they had the turnover. I think it was a turnover, and Illinois is coming back down quick. And I thought they were going to foul, and then they didn't. And that's where Camden Heidi had that jump, steal, where Illinois was forcing it. And it was a huge possession there. And I'm not sure if they got deked out because they thought maybe Purdue was going to foul in the middle of the court in transition, but they didn't. And then all of a sudden, Illinois throws an ill-advised kind of a sloppy pass, and Camden Heidi was able to use his length and athleticism to go up and get it. And Purdue came back down the court. And so that was a little bit of a wild moment that played in Purdue's favor. Everybody's singing your praises, Joe, for being able to hit the dry erase board on the fly. We do have one more request from Boiler Mike MG. No one talking about zone middle of second half, only a couple times, but it worked. Do you have any insight or perspective from that?
Yeah, I don't. They ran it. I remember twice off the top of my head that they ran it. It was after a timeout, the one play, I believe, with 8 minutes left in the second half. I think it was after the under 8 timeout. And it started almost in man, where it's like, you're just looking like a man thing. And then like the initial ball screen happened at the top, and then Purdue just kind of morphed into the zone. And why not? So we'll go back to it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're feeding the people, giving the people what they want. And that's not what they want. Is not.
Okay, I'll try to keep this one.
Were you saying eliminating me, Greg? You just went to, you're like, give the people what they want.
Only Bitcoin. Only Bitcoin, right?
So Purdue has shown this a little bit more in general, and then obviously there's offense there. Whatever. Illinois has the ball. Heidi was on the ball, and then actually it was like this, and then he set a screen. And he came off, and Purdue's kind of been showing this recently where like Braden will just kind of come up in almost one-man zone. And so you saw last game against Tyson Walker. I remember specifically TKR got switched onto Walker, and instead of Smith kind of staying back, he just kind of runs up, and you're almost just putting 2 on the ball. And Purdue just they've done that. This one was very much more of a 2-3 because they stayed in it the entire possession. But it started out in man, and then you'll see it every once in a while where Braden just, if they don't like the matchup that they have, or they just want to try to throw something different, you'll see Braden kind of abandon his man and then flow up top, put 2 on the ball, and then Purdue just knows they have to rotate on the backside. And they did that, I believe, twice today, maybe more, and I could have missed it. But I noticed that too. They went to it, and it's also just, kind of how good Illinois' offense can be is Painter knew that he at some point might have had to go to that. I'm sure that they practiced it a little bit, had like a little bit more prep with it, and knew that they had it if they needed it.
Yeah.
So since that meme kind of blew up at that high school basketball game where that kid was like talking in Painter's ear, and everybody was like, what is he saying? Since then, Purdue has played zone and put Zach Edey beyond the half court line to break the press. So I don't know if there's something to that or not. That high school kid might have put some thoughts.
There it is.
Yes. So so that wraps up our X's and O's with Joe on the dry erase board. It's a award-winning segment here on Boilers in the Stands. Derek Mulliken with the chat of the day here. Joe questioning timing when he directly nailed that timing on the tweet. Just why he is so good. Humble and brilliant, like Harry Potter with headphones. I'm not sure what the Harry Potter
that means, but thanks.
means, but he is very humble and very brilliant. And we need that balance of humility on this show because we all know just how big my head can get. So we appreciate everybody hanging out. Once again, hit that like button if you haven't already. Head to our YouTube channel and subscribe to Brags in the Stands. We got a little umbrella of stuff that we do there. I cover a lot of Chicago sports. I'm at the CHGO Sports Studio that you see here behind me, covering the Chicago Blackhawks, producing their show. We do a lot of stuff here, but Obviously, we talk a lot of Boilers basketball, so please subscribe to the YouTube channel and hang out with us all March long. We do a lot of off-season shows as well and try to keep you guys up to date with all the different happenings with Purdue Boilermakers basketball. What were you going to say, Kraig?
I was going to ask if you're going to explain the super chat because we've got a couple of them over there.
Yeah, that's true.
I can pull one up right here. This is our
so,
first super chat.
The $1.99 super chat just got our Big Ten tournament tickets. SLK Boiler, longtime viewer of the show, going to be in Minnesota for the Big Ten tournament. And yes, these are super chats. For those of you that aren't familiar with the YouTube super chats, you have an opportunity. A lot of people have been asking how they can contribute and support our cause and what we're trying to do here at Boilers in the Stands from a monetary aspect. And Ryan Lewis with a $5 super chat. Let's get a super chat train going for these guys. Choo Boiler up. We appreciate you, Ryan. And so that is just one way you guys can help support us, is throwing in a super chat. Jason Dupoy, $1.99. I hope I didn't push you. Depew. Jason Depew. I apologize, Jason, but he says Darth Edey embracing all the haters. Very stoic in his thrashing of Coleman Hawkins and the Fighting Illini here tonight. So again, if you throw some super chats, obviously we're going to always put comments up on the board, and we appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're giving a super chat or not. But that is one way to support us here at Boilers in the Stands as we continue to grow what we've been building over the last few years. And we expect a special March here to give a little cherry on top to what we're doing. So thank you to everyone that's hanging out. Why don't we take a little break and give one more shout out to our partners here at Boilers in the Stands, and then we'll start to head to third base here on Boilers in the Stands.
Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to our partner, BJ Rule. Purdue graduate and current Lafayette resident, BJ Rule is close to 15 years experience helping buyers, sellers, and real estate investors in Lafayette and surrounding areas. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give BJ a call or text to set up an appointment to see how he can help you accomplish your goals. Your home will likely be the most expensive purchase of your life. Have the experts with Rainey & Company at Keller Williams on your side and let BJ help you navigate this process. Call 317-345-4600. That is 317-345-4600.
Joe, you stole my thunder. BJ's my guy. And I had it pulled up. I was ready.
My bad.
I was ready to pitch my good friend BJ on this advertisement tonight. That's okay. But no, BJ is an incredible guy. Him and his partner both have, advertised with us throughout this year, and we appreciate the both of you. But BJ is a good friend of mine from a long time ago in the livestock industry. Great guy. Look him up for all your realty needs in this area.
And that's what we do. We try to partner with people that, are invested in what we're doing, invested in Boilermakers basketball. So BJ is obviously one of those people. And obviously with Fan Bags to start the show, that's my guy. Brian Potter, who's done an amazing job with his company and beanbag cornhole boards, I should say. And then, of course, with Athlete, Tom Brady runs Athlete. Autograph, I should say. And Tom Brady runs that, and he's obviously a great friend of ours. So, shout out to all our great friends here for supporting the show.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed hanging out in the Hamptons with him last weekend.
Maybe he'll get us on his yacht eventually. Jeff Parks, $10 super chat. Let's get Boilers in the Stands to the Final Four. That's what I'm talking about, Jeff.
I was looking at plane tickets today. I know I need to do it, and I just
already
keep
got my plane
knots
ticket to Arizona here. I'm leaving Friday night and heading back Tuesday morning after a big time celebration down in Arizona. So I feel very strongly, like we talked about earlier, when we talked about this team being different and how they're finishing the season and the maturity they've shown. The other big part that we've talked about a few times, but it really is, to me, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what's different about this team. And it was on display tonight. 8 of 10 from 3 in the second half. I don't know what their, I don't know how much their 3-point percentage has changed, but a week or two ago, they were number 1 in the country in 3-point percentage. I don't think that has changed, Joe. They're number 2 in the country now. So I wanted to make sure I didn't read the stat incorrectly, but they went from 276 in the country in 3-point percentage last year. 276.
You just pulled that. I mean, that was the right number. I was not expecting you to pull the right number.
Joe, you're rubbing off on me, man. You're rubbing off on me now. All that, information is now getting stored in this thick-headed skull of mine. They were ranked 276 in the country last year in 3-point percentage. And for a long time this season, they were ranked number 1. Right now, they're ranked number 2. But that might change after tonight, going, what did they finish? 9-16 on the night?
Second is after tonight's already taken into account.
Fine, Joe. Jesus. Regardless, though, it just that to me, I think, just puts on full display what's different about this team and how they've really filled into their roles. And so, there's a lot of differences from this year to last year, and every Purdue fan tries to kind of grasp at every straw to figure out the formula of how they're not going to be nervous in March. And trust me, you're going to be nervous no matter what heading into every game, but you can take some solace, from the numbers and from, their demeanor and what is showing as something that could potentially be a very special March.
And I think a large part of that is Mason. I think
Derek Mulligan, Braggs' brain has made an appearance. then it proceeded to walk out as I couldn't land the plane on that statement. Go ahead, Kraig.
If you go back and watch that FDU game, I think the player that you'll see pass up open threes the most was Mason.
Yep.
And Mason has had no fear this year. If in any spot at any moment, if he's got a look, he's going to take it. And I think he's still over 50% on the year, isn't he, Joe?
He is 48.9, which is the 5th best in the entire country.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just huge, right? When you have a guy coming off the bench that's playing the 4 spot, right? So he's coming around some actions in terms of doing some zoom action and whatnot that most 4s aren't necessarily used to guarding when they do run specific action for him. I just think that's so key that Mason's stepping into it and just letting it fly, because I don't think he did in that FDU game last year. But more importantly, or not more importantly, but another thing I want to say is, Painter told us all year last year, over and over again, when they were not shooting good from 3, that he thought this team was a team full of good shooters, and that what he saw in practice time and time again was good shooters. Now they've brought in a couple of guys, Lance Jones, Cam Heidi's coming after his redshirt freshman year, and Miles Colvin is certainly contributing to the high 3-point percentage with what he did earlier in the season. But by and large, it's just been the guys from a volume standpoint. It's just been the guys who were there last year shooting to the level that Painter thought they could shoot last year in terms of Mason Gillis, Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith.
Well, can we go through it, Joe? I mean, let's just go through it one by one as far as individual 3-point percentage from, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Mason Gillis. I don't know if we're able to go back to last year and then compare it to
I got it.
At the okay, cool. Fire away.
So we'll start with Purdue's leader in 3-point percentage, Zach Edey. He shot 0% last year, and he's shooting 50% this year. It's facts. Side note.
On how much volume? On how much volume, Joe?
That does, it's 2 shot attempts, but
don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
That is real. I will get into the rest of these really quick. That is my favorite thing, though, because somebody. I saw it on Twitter or something, and they were like comparing stats between. It was between Edey and Dalton Connect, whatever. But Edey's shooting splits is 62% from 2, 50% from 3, and 71% from the free throw line. It's just hilarious to me that you can put 50% in it. It is correct. But we'll go through the rest of the guys, the difference between last year, right? As Braggs already mentioned, 276 in 3-point percentage. Gillis, 35.6% last year, 48.9% on basically the same volume. Fletcher Lawyer, he was 32.6%. He's jumped up 10 percent points, 32.6 to 42.4%. Braden Smith, 37.6% last year, 45.4% this year on a little bit higher volume. Even TKR, 25% last year, 40% this year. Heidi obviously didn't play last year, but he's at 48% on the year. Colvin, isn't getting a ton of run, but when he does come in, he's shooting 45% on the year. And then Lance Jones last year, when he transferred, the big thing that stood out, 26.7% from three last year. He's 35.7% from three this year. When you kind of look through his seasons, right, this is about average, for a little bit above average for his career. Like the Lance Jones experience, he makes a lot or he misses a lot. And this year he's doing a lot more making, which is huge. Was there anybody I missed? I don't think so. Out of those. But like you look through all of them, and literally everybody is taking a jump in 3-point shooting percentage from last year to this year. Like that's pretty crazy.
Right. And so I obviously, adding some different elements in Lance Jones and Camden Heidi and Fletcher Lawyer's role kind of getting, put in a better place than maybe he was asked to do a little too much last year for what his capabilities are. Mason Gillis, there was, just trying to figure out the four last year, it was tricky, with Trey Kaufman-Renn coming off the bench and trying to understand how they wanted to do that. So it just seems like everybody's kind of a little more comfortable in their role, and the maturity aspect, we had David Jenkins on here a week or two ago, and we asked right out the gate, like, what was it that, was your failure against Fairleigh Dickinson? Was it fatigue, or was it experience, or was it nerves, or, and he brought up like, hey, we didn't take them seriously enough. What game this year have they not shown up for? You know what I mean? Like they've gotten beaten, right? But they've shown up every night, and these guys tonight could have had every excuse in the book to not show up, and they would have got a pass because it's on the road, tough game. Illinois played their best game of the year. They just come off a championship, celebration on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. They didn't play well, or they're down at halftime. They could have mailed it in. They don't. They stick with it. They stay in the fight. They stay engaged. They're not playing with fear. Braden Smith and the swagger he is showing this year is at another level. It's exciting to watch him hit some of these dagger threes in the second half. When he pulls up in clutch moments, you are more surprised than not when it doesn't go down. It's like the more the clutch moments get, the more he hits the shot. So that's last year, you could feel the nerves at times in some of the hostile environments they had to play in. This year, just from a vibe standpoint, whether you're at the stadium or you're watching on TV, you can feel the confidence and composure that this team plays with.
And look, Lance has not had a good game the last two games, but I just want to point out something that Chris Foreman said the other night on the show. And if you guys haven't watched that show was really, really good. If you want to know a little more insight about Purdue basketball and some of the people behind the scenes, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that Chris Foreman interview. But when we asked about what was different about this team, one of the things that he said in relation to Lance was just that his confidence exuded beyond him to other people on this team, that his swagger and his don't give a shit, and I'm not going to take a shit, is spread. Like he saw that in practice and early games, just spreading to other guys on the team. He's not had a great offensive game the last two games, but like I think just from a season-long team perspective standpoint, what people bring in from an attitude standpoint, from a confidence standpoint, and just from what's the word I'm looking for when everybody gets along, Joe? Gosh dang it.
Camaraderie?
Continuity, chemistry.
No, chemistry. That's what I was looking for. From a team chemistry standpoint.
You're a teacher. You forgot about chemistry?
I know. I don't think we can we can't diminish that,
Yeah,
100%. Even when things aren't going the best on the floor, there's just other things that this team doesn't have. I mean, I wanted to bring it back to Gillis really quick. Like last game was the first game we've seen all year where we were like, why did Gillis not shoot that? But that's like the only time I can really that might be the only time I can think of the entire season where it was just like blatant, like why didn't you shoot that? And then he bounces back today and does his thing. So should we, unless there's more on this, should we talked a little bit about him.
Derek Lucic wants to talk about the rest of the bench. I know
if I don't get to talk about Cam Heidi, I'm gonna cry.
We can.
Kraig. Have at it. Talk about
go
Camden
for it.
Heidi.
Well, no, take me off this view. I have a
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, based upon his impact in the game, I'm going to ask Greg because I know Joe's already done a deep dive on individual stats here. Based upon his impact on the game from a defensive standpoint, and just like people commenting, the commentators commenting, whatever, how many minutes do you think Cam Heidi played tonight?
Well, you're setting it up as a trick question. So I'm pretty smart in this business here. So I'm going to say 18.
13.
Wow.
And it felt just watching that game when I pulled up the stats at the end, I was like, Cam only played 13 minutes tonight because it felt like his presence was an imprint on this game because of what he did in those 13 minutes. And you heard the announcers calling the game talking about it. In terms of his length and physicality, Damas just couldn't back him down. He beats him one time for an and one. And I'd have to go back and rewatch the game. But to my knowledge, just off quick recollection, I think that's the only points he got against Cam the entire night. Now, he still gets his 20, right? It's not like he didn't do anything. He didn't get shut down. Some of that might be the fact that there was 27 other minutes of this game that Heidi wasn't on him, or however minutes he played versus what Cam played. But I can't remember a game recently. There's been some games where there were nothing burgers in terms of actual stats put across from points or rebounds or whatever. But I can't remember a game where a guy took not a single shot attempt the entire game where I felt like his minutes put such a big imprint on the game.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, go ahead.
When we were talking, I said earlier, I was going to say Lawyer was the third most impactful player. I hesitated because I was like, okay, maybe Heidi. So I was like, okay, top 4. And Heidi was the guy I had in mind. I think I've thought this for most of the season. I don't think I've been confident enough to say it out loud though, until these last couple of games, but yes, Smith, Lawyer, Jones, Edey, yes, all of them are obviously the most important for a Purdue March Madness run. Heidi might be the X factor though. Heidi is the when Purdue is searching for this bigger wing that can give you something offensively. And I know he didn't shoot a shot today, but there is more to it, right? Of teams at least just respecting him on offense. Sometimes that's half the battle, especially when you have Zach Edey down low. You just need people to respect it and give Edey space to work. Heidi might just be the guy where you're going to find, hopefully it's a round of 32 or Sweet 16 game. And it's hey, Heidi's going to have to play 25 minutes. And I think I trust him for the most part in that spot. I think he did a good job today. And he's shown he can knock down threes. He's shown he can attack closeouts and get to the rim. And then he's shown he can be a guy that I would still say Jones is a better defender overall, but Heidi has, just because of being 6'7" and being pretty built and moving pretty well, has that potential to realistically guard a wider range of guys. And now Jones has done well against Connect and guys like that. Jones definitely can do it. But if there's a night where Domas was kind of getting his against Jones, now Heidi can be the guy that can come in, and you're not giving up a ton offensively like you could do with Morton.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is, right, when we talk about Jones at the 3 or Heidi at the 3, if the 3 guard or the 3 spot for the opposing team is somebody that's super shifty and quick up top, as athletic as Heidi is, sometimes he still struggles with extreme quickness laterally. But when you're guarding a guy like Damas, he's not super, super quick laterally. He's not making a dribble and then a second move and juking somebody out of his shorts. He's usually making a shot fake and drive to the rim, or he's going to back you down and then put you through a bunch of YMCA moves. Well, he's got to get you down underneath the rim or into the paint before he can do that. And Cam just didn't let him push him back there. And then at 6'7", Cam's got the length. There was a couple times he went ahead and tried that shot anyway, and Cam's got the length to disrupt that shot. So I think a really important thing, and I'm going to come back to this again, Joe. We've talked about this 10-man rotation, which really at this point is a 9-man rotation. Caleb's minutes lately, maybe it's an 8-man rotation, right? But I saw some comments of this is why Cam needs to be doing this through the rest of the season, blah, blah, blah. It's not that. This was a matchup where Cam was the best matchup. And Painter, by and large, even though I was screaming for more Cam minutes when Illinois went on their little run, by and large, Painter has shown that whatever that matchup is, he's going to roll with that 7th, 8th guy more minutes than the other guy. And even if that means Lawyer's on the bench more as a starter, or if TKR is on a bench more as a starter. Like, we don't need to take these snippets and try to extend it to the rest of the season for a Final Four run. Just take it for the matchup that it is and leave it the frick alone.
Yep. No
Yeah,
question.
and
Yeah,
I wanted to bring up really quick. So a little back end, my bad. Did not realize I did not upload the stats till now. But this is also the Purdue rotation. And so anybody that is new, that is watching, a highlighted cell means that that player played that minute, give or take a minute, because players don't sub in and out on the perfect, minute mark. So excuse me there. But when we talk about Heidi's impact, and it was just like, it felt like he played so much more. The other thing to look at is when you look below Josh First's name at the bottom, you see Purdue margin. That number means whatever that lineup was, plus or minus, during their time on the floor. Go to Heidi's second half, right? Heidi played, I have him down for 7 minutes, +3 in that first lineup, and then +4 in that second. So he was a +7 in his minutes right there. And that's where it's just like really Purdue made their comeback, and then was able to kind of, obviously Illinois got back into it a little bit, but Purdue took control of the game during that stretch right there. And I think that also adds to why Heidi just felt so impactful even in only 13 minutes.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I mean, just the depth this team has is put on full display night in and night out. It was once again here tonight. We have hit a milestone moment here on Boilers in the Stands. I know we keep celebrating ourselves, and we're going to get worn out patting ourselves on the back here tonight. But at the same time, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention, we have eclipsed over 2,000 live viewers here on this show. And as somebody that's doing a lot of this stuff with Chicago Bears coverage and things like that, I don't take that for granted. This is some of the numbers we've been working really hard at. These two have been busting their ass this season to keep this train rolling while I am doing a lot of things here in Chicago. So this is really cool. And I'm excited for everybody here that's new to the program, hanging out. I'm excited for all of you guys as Purdue Boilermaker fans here this March. This is a fun start with, winning a Big Ten championship on Saturday and the celebration and everything that it entailed. And then tonight to win it outright on the road, punching your rivals in the mouth, in Illinois Fighting Illini. They're not the IU rivals. I know Illinois is desperate to have a rival. They think, Missouri's their rival.
They're a protected rivalry in football. So like the Big Ten office does view them as a rival, just not like IU.
Yeah. Yep. And so this is a lot of fun, so far here in March, and we're going to have even more fun as this month continues and we get all the way into April. So we appreciate all the kind words here in the chat. Once again, we got some super chats that have flown in here from Jeffrey L. Ryan, $9.99 super chat. How about that free throw differential? Yeah, Jeff, I don't think Illinois fans are going to be able to complain about the fouls too much. What was the exact free throw differential on the day?
So Illinois went 17 of 21, which obviously means Purdue had to shoot more, right? Because that's just how it works. But Purdue actually is 10 of 14. Purdue shot 7 less free throws, made 7 less also. Yeah.
And I'll give Illinois a lot of credit. Coleman Hawkins was getting beat like a drum, but he wasn't getting in foul trouble. He was making sure to stay straight up. The only guy that really was racking up the fouls was their backup big. What was his name?
Amani
Hansberry.
He comes in for like a 4-minute stretch and almost fouls out in the second half. There's like the mugging guy, to try to hack off Edey's limbs while he's in there. So, we all understand, when it comes to Illinois, Terrence Shannon Jr., he is somebody that can get to the free throw line quite a bit. I mean, what did he have against Penn State in the game they lost? I think he shot like 40 free throws in that game, and he's getting to the line at will.
19.
19 free throws against Penn State. And I remember watching that game, and then when the Illinois blew, it was an absolute miracle, up 7 with a minute to go. But, Terrence Shannon Jr., I think he dropped like 35, 38 points or whatever and had 19 free throws. And I was like, man, if only Zach Edey could get that kind of love, from the refs. But at the same time, Terrence Shannon Jr. does a great job of initiating contact and forcing the ref to make a decision on a call. So, Illinois, I know sometimes that they'll be in on the refs, as are all fan bases in the Big Ten, tough on the refs. But tonight there shouldn't be too much complaining about the calls, at least in the disparity for Purdue's sake. So good on there, and we appreciate your support, Jeffrey L. Ryan, with the $10 super chat.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add on the free throw talk. I thought for the most part it was good. There was definitely missed calls both ways. It wasn't egregious enough one way where I was just like, was upset.
I thought there was only the only two calls
the charge, the no call on the charge for Fletcher Lawyer.
I'd have been fine with that being a no call, but they gave him continuation on that.
Yes. Not only did they not call a charge, first they called it on the ground, then they gave him continuation after talking about it. I about lost my mind at that moment.
He takes a whole nother hop step before he ever puts the ball up. Like, that's maybe NBA continuation, but that's not college, in terms of an and one or whatever the heck was there. And then, let's also be honest, the off-ball foul when Braden was fixing to turn it over in the backcourt that Lawyer draws was that wasn't a great call. There wasn't really a foul there, but whatever. You get a trade-off of one really bad call versus another really bad call, and it's a wash. So,
agreed. Should we? Do we want to do?
We haven't really. Hold on. We haven't talked about Fletch.
There's multiple guys that we haven't talked about. We have well, let's talk about Fletch first because
we haven't talked about Zach.
We have not talked about Zach Edey. We are an hour and 11 minutes into a show where Zach Edey what did he put up? Zach Edey just put up 28 points on 13 of 23 shooting, only 2 free throws made, 28 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steal in 36 minutes, and National Player of the Year. We have not we've spent 3 minutes on him maybe. But we can go to Fletch first.
Well, I'm sure.
No. Let's stick with Zach. Let's stick with Zach.
But see, this is the other thing, because now it's let's talk about Zach, and it's where do we go to? Right? It is he dominated down low. Illinois had 0 answer down low for him, and then when he doubled, especially in that to start that second half. I know when we talked about, somebody said earlier, why Illinois changed their defensive game plan on Zach Edey. Their defensive game plan on Zach Edey was not working in the first half, right? Edey in the first half, he had 18 points on 9 of 13 shooting. Purdue, but nobody else scored more than 4 points. And so they're like, okay, let's sell out on Edey and then we'll make everybody else beat us. And then first two of the first 3 possessions in the second half, Illinois hard doubles, and now it's wide open threes. Purdue knocks them down, which is the big thing. And so now it's okay. We kind of have to respect everybody else, because those threes got Braden and Fletcher really going. Fletch was okay in the first half, and Braden was kind of hesitant. It felt like a little bit. Those threes got him going in the second half, and then they're able to knock down a bunch. They go 5 of 5 combined, and so Edey's it's just crazy, man. We cannot take his final games. Hopefully, there's 10 left, I think, if they won everything. But we can't take him for granted because he's just so good. And then the bigger thing, and then I'll throw it to you guys, is the defense. And that'll be something I'm going to hit on a lot in the offseason, is what does this defense look like? Because even today, right, this is not a great matchup when Illinois goes spaced out. Edey, a couple times, it happens, gets burned. Illinois is going to do that. But you saw it immediately. Both times Edey was taken out, immediately Illinois goes straight to the rim. And it's just, Edey's just such good job down there. Contesting, he's maybe doesn't get every single block, but 2 blocks in this game. He just contests everything. And even when he is switched on a guard, it isn't an automatic bucket, right? Sometimes guards are going to score on him and make him look a little silly. It happens. He's 7'4", but a lot of times he makes the guard at least have to work. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. There'll be defensive player of the year talk for the Big Ten. And I don't think Edey will win it, but I think he has a case of just hey, there is not a more important defender to their team than Zach Edey.
No, definitely. And I thought his defense was great. And, one of the other key points we talked about when we put our points up on Boilers in the Stands prior to the game was Zach staying out of foul trouble, because in this first matchup, he only played 23 minutes. So a lot of it was if Zach plays his normal minutes, is that game blown so far open that Illinois never gets a chance to get within 5 points or whatever they did by the end of the game after Purdue decided to kind of coast in the last part of that. But like he did a really good job of doing it and staying vertical. There were a couple of replays where they showed contest, and it was when he got the foul, when he came over the back of the guy. I think it was his third foul on the rebound. On the actual contest, like he just jumps and he stays vertical with his arms up better than any other big man in the entire country so that he doesn't draw fouls. Now, when the ball came off, then he fought for the rebound and he totally wrapped the guy up and he picked up his third foul. But he's so good at that. I'm going to go to something else with Zach that I brought up the last game too, Joe. That Ohio State loss, again, 4 turnovers. After that, 0, 0, 1. How many turnovers this game?
1.
Wow. That is so big. Because we focus on him so much when he's not turning the ball over. So we're at least getting the ball up on the rim because we offensive rebound so incredibly well. That's major. And for a 7'4" guy that sometimes has to put the ball on the ground and, make a little bit of a move before he goes up, to only have 2 turnovers in the last 4 games is just mind blowing to me.
And on top of that, sorry, Greg, cut in real quick. 2 turnovers, 10 assists in that time. So it's not like he's just like catching and going up. Like he is passing out when needed. He's making the right play. So that's also a big part of it too.
A 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio by a 7'4" center.
The chase down block at the end of the game was a real you kind of what up. I'm here kind of moment for Zach Edey. And then the Coleman Hawkins where he puts him in a box and Coleman's pivot, and they turn the ball over.
I think there was one more pivot. There was one more pivot, Greg.
Yeah, there was nothing he could do. He had him in jail, and so those 2 plays at the end of the game were defining winning moments, winning plays from your National Player of the Year. And somebody said it in the chat, his gravity is unmistakable. There's no question about it on both ends of the court, the way he affects the game. This he's just tall bullshit. You can miss me with that because he shows the kind of ability that's very rare for a guy that's 7'4". And if you, as a basketball observer, if your observation is that he's just tall, then you don't know what you're looking at. You don't understand basketball, and you don't know how to appreciate somebody that's 7'4", 300 pounds, that moves the way he does, that has the footwork and finesse that he does, that has the touch around the rim that he has, the ability he can shoot from the free throw line. If you just watch his game and all your takeaway is he's just tall, then you don't know ball. That's just plain and simple. Show the National Player of the Year some respect. Show the future, soon-to-be 2-time national player the respect he deserves on his way out from his, college footprint that he has. He and Caitlin Clark here over the last few years has changed the way college basketball has been watched. And these guys are special on both ends of the spectrum. On the women's side and the men's side, they're rarefied air when it comes to their accomplishments. They're rarefied air when it comes to their ability. And it's time for everyone to give Zach Edey his flowers and stop trying to disrespect and denigrate what they think are his shortcomings of his game. He is big time, ladies and gentlemen, and he is a Purdue Boilermaker, and one day he will have a statue outside Mackey Arena.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I mean,
I could feel it.
I know we didn't talk about him for an hour and 20, but I think we saved a good one for there.
Greg, did you see what I could see it coming, and I was like, I'm putting him on solo because I feel him getting ready to rock and roll, and I wanted to up the ante, so you just laid into it.
Hey, it's all good. You hear enough of it with the he's just tall stuff. And I think most basketball observers know that it's beyond that. But you really do have to appreciate the ability he has. And I do think it has a lot. I mean, I know we joke how many times they bring up that he played hockey and baseball growing up before he played basketball. But I do think that had a big reason and impact on the reason he has such unique ability for his size. And go find all the other players around college basketball that are 7'4" or taller, put all of their stats together and you won't match Zach Edey's stats that he puts up by himself. So that's what puts him on a pedestal at the college level that very few get to say they're at. So time to show him a little bit of respect on his way out the door with his last month and a half of his collegiate career. So we shall see.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we need if a Final Four run absolutely cements him as the greatest Boilermaker of all time, and he might already be there. All right.
I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, I think so. I think that's probably right. I'm just thinking back.
I think right now you can debate, and it's fair. I think a Final Four run or championship, then I don't know if you can debate.
No, I don't think you can debate it at that point, but I think they need to at least make a deep run in March one time to
fair.
fully solidify it. Sorry, I had to plug my computer in. I didn't realize I didn't do that earlier, and the battery was beeping at me, and I was gonna just die out and fade away. So
yeah. All right, so we hammered home Zach Edey here. Why don't we move to Fletcher Lawyer and try to kick this around the horn as we round third here on the Boilers in the Stands post-game show. Once again, please hit that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know we got a lot of people watching on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch as well. But if you could, we'd appreciate you heading over to our YouTube channel, subscribing to Brags in the Stands, and you'll see our library of shows. You'll see all our Boilers in the Stand show within that library, and hit the like button on those shows. We appreciate everybody hanging out. So Fletcher Lawyer, ladies and gentlemen, Big Onions Floyer.
Fletcher. You said
Lawyer.
That twice tonight.
I said it twice now as he shows up for the big games, as the lid seems to have come off the bucket for him here the last two games. Good timing as March has begun.
Yeah, I think he just hates the month of February. Last year, he really struggled in February. And you look, January 31st, Fletcher Lawyer, 3 of 4, 15 points, 3 of 4 from 2, 3 of 5 from 3 against Northwestern. All of February, awful. And now in March, 4 of 6 from 3 against MSU, 2 of 3 today against Illinois. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to honestly start with even just the defense. And we and Kraig brought it up last show. And there is plays where Fletcher Lawyer just gets burned. And it when he gets burned, it is bad. There's just no chance of recovery. The thing is, I think that number that's happened has gone down a lot in the past two games. You go to the MSU game, I don't think he was really burned too much. Even today, Domas gets the and one down late. Guerrier might have had one or two where they just kind of drove at him. And I'm sure I'm forgetting one, but what I'm trying to say is aside from those 3 to 4 plays, which is still those are still very important plays. And so we're not taking that away, but he makes the right play mostly on defense. He's in the right position. Purdue does a good job of kind of stashing him in spots where he isn't always involved in the action. Like I said, this was a game where he should have been played off the floor. Just looking at the matchup, he should have been played off the floor. I was assuming this was going to be closer to a Heidi 25 plus minute, maybe Morton gets 15, stuff like that. And he didn't and there was never really a reason to take him off the floor. And then you get on top of that, you get the two threes, you get him being aggressive, hit a couple jumpers. He has 5 assists on the game compared to only 1 turnover. We want to just keep it rolling with him. But these past 2 games have just been a fantastic sign as we do round into March.
Yeah. And what's amazing to me is we talk about the fact that Lawyer is really good at team defense in terms of understanding where he's supposed to rotate and be in position. And the way Purdue plays defense and the fact that they always double the post, that is so important. And we still see Lance is a great defender, probably the best one-on-one defender on this team. But he's maybe out of position on those rotations more than any of the other starters, just because he's still trying to learn Purdue's system. And yet tonight, we're playing a team that wants to play ISO ball. They want to play an NBA mindset of seek out the weak link, hunt them, and then abuse that specific matchup. Purdue had 20 assists tonight. Illinois only had 9, right? That's Illinois' system by and large. They try to get into those ISO matchups. I like them best when they're kicking the ball around and swinging it. But Purdue kind of shut that down, and they kind of went back to their old ways of those ISO matchups. And yet Fletcher Lawyer played good enough to still stay on the floor. So I think that speaks volumes in terms of what he's tried to do. And there was a play in the first half. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but there was a play where I thought he was beat. He really rushes back, slides back under the offensive player that was trying to cut around him and stops that action, right? And I just don't know. We saw Dakota Mathias come in as a really bad defender early on and fight. It's not like he was a super athletic dude and get better. I'm not saying that Fletcher's ever going to be Dakota Mathias, but like we've seen guys be able to do that even if they aren't the most athletically gifted. And I think Fletcher's making strides.
Yeah, I mean, and then also, and it's not credited in the stat sheet, and I am going to
Block.
advocate for it. Yeah, Fletcher is not credited with a block, but he had a block on Marcus Domas today where he rotated as the low. So the low man is usually the guys who's in like the weak side corner, so opposite of where the ball is. He rotated there on a Domas drive and blocked him at the rim. Like I don't know, that's just like if you were to tell me Fletcher Lawyer did that, I wouldn't have believed you, but he did.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. Andrew Ramirez saying I popped into an Illinois postgame show. Their version of Braggs is a complete clown show. Shout out to Braggs and company maintaining some decency amidst the chaos that is Big Ten basketball. I don't know what version of Braggs is on whatever postgame show, but
I think I know which one they're talking about, but not positive.
Well, I don't know, but I am the clown on this show, so it's all good. We have fun here at Boilers in the Stand, so we appreciate you tuning in and having fun with it. But we talked about it as Fletcher was struggling. We weren't as worried as others. Now people are starting to worry about Lance Jones. Not worried about Lance Jones either. Guys, they have so much depth. You're going to have guys that are going to ebb and flow. Of course, you want everybody clicking on all cylinders. You want that in March. You want that in the March Madness tournament. Right now, as guys are finding their way and as they're finishing the season out, you're going to have a little ebb and flow, and you can accept a little bit of struggle. Obviously, when it's money on the table time, you want everybody at the top of their game. But that's not how it goes game to game. You're going to have some guys that are hot, some guys that are not, and Painter's got to identify who to ride the hot hand with. And that's why we break down the minutes like we do, when Joe pulls up the graphic that he makes after every game to kind of isolate and understand, what Painter's thought process was with it. And to Craig's point about, only 13 minutes of play from Camden Heidi, but the impact he had. Fletcher Lawyer, he's got that clutch gene in him, and so even if he's 0 for 9, you want him taking those shots when he's open. And he had the 3-point ball in a big spot at the end. Then he had the runner as he was going up the middle, and coming off the pick and roll at the top, a lot more times than not this year, he's played with no fear. And so, I'm happy to see Fletcher Lawyer break out a little bit. You got one more game here in the regular season here on Sunday at Mackey Arena, and then let the games begin, let tournament time start. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes for Fletcher Lawyer in March, but you like what you see so far here to end the regular season.
Yeah, and he doesn't do it every time, but so many times in big games and big moments he's stepped up. And we talked about it a few games ago when we thought Fletch looked tired and thought his shot looked kind of flat. And I think the mechanics of his shot has just looked completely different over the last really 4 games. A couple of games before he started really getting going and scoring points again. I just thought the mechanics of his shot itself has looked completely different and got a little bit more air underneath it. So I'm encouraged by it. I also think it's just really important. Like, people and fans talk about him this way, but also other media people talk about college basketball players this way, like they're NBA pros, right? Like every game, every starter is supposed to bring the absolute best version of themselves. They can all give absolute effort every time they step onto that court. But this is college basketball with 18 to 22, well, COVID year. So 18 to 25-year-olds, I guess, with some of the super years and all that other crap and grad transfers. But nonetheless, these are younger players. They're not going to have their best game every night, right? They have to go to class. They have to take tests. They're traveling all around the country while they're doing all this other stuff. This idea that we evaluate them as a good or bad player sometimes as fans based upon one off night or 2 or 3 off nights in a row, like, give it a break a little bit. Like, realize who they are in the capsule of an entire season or the capsule of an entire month, and don't judge off 1, 2, 3 games.
Yeah, I assume I'm gonna be honest. I spaced out a little bit, but was taking care. I was taking care of other stuff. This was about Lance Jones, and he's 2 of 10 from 3 in the last 2 games, 0 of 5 from 2. But then you look.
I was actually talking about Fletcher when people were harping on him earlier.
Well, there we go.
But
there
you
we
could
go.
also talk about that with Lance.
Because I think that's what we brought up, and like it's 2 games with Jones. If it continues, then maybe you worry. But you look at the previous 1, 2, 3, 4 from that: 3 of 7, 3 of 8, 3 of 5, 2 of 6 from 3, 3 of 5, 4 of 6, 2 of 3 from 2. Like, he still has it. And then the Fletcher thing, like you said, because I did hear parts of it, is like there's just going to be slumps. And then we've already mentioned a few times how Painter said defenses were planning for Lawyer and try to take him away, and Lawyer's going to have his time. And you just hope it all coincides in March, where everybody's time happens then.
100%. So is there anybody else you guys want to spotlight, or as we round third and head home here on this?
Did we talked about Braden Smith enough? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Did we? I mean, we can touch on him a little.
Are we giving game balls? Because I've seen that like every time on your sheet of what we're
We can give out some game balls. Why not?
About what we're supposed to do during a show.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: we can't give the same game ball. Okay,
All right.
we all have to pick somebody different.
I feel like I know who Kraig's picking.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go last. I'm gonna let you guys go.
Cool.
So we can't pick him.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go. Braden Smith. He's the maestro of this orchestra. He's the straw that stirs the drink here. He's one of the biggest differences between last year and this year when you talk about maturity and composure of this whole team. And yeah, I know Chris Foreman said they're following Lance Jones's lead and his leadership and his veteranship, 5th-year senior transfer from Southern Illinois. But the moxie that Braden Smith is showing here in each of these big games, especially at the end, and just the artistry with how he works, where he manipulates the pick and roll and uses his blocker to understand how he's going to get to the rim, and how many easy layups does he create for himself just by the timing and rhythm and pace to his play and the eyes in the back of his head to swing the pass and to get out in transition. How many times on a rebound is he going? He's not waiting for the ball. He's running towards the other side of the court, and guys are finding him and getting them down the court much quicker at a pace than they were last year. And then you just talk about the big onions, big clutch, Johnny big nuts shots that he hits to end the games, and a 3-point dagger with 4 seconds on the shot clock at the end, only up 3 to put the nail in the coffin on Illinois as they try to maybe push it to overtime at the end. Braden Smith, man, this dude is big time, and it's only his sophomore year, so that's exciting stuff. My game ball goes to Braden Smith.
And also Bob Cousy finalist award nominee.
Best point guard, best point guard in the country.
And he set the record for all-time assists in a single season this game tonight. That's another thing we didn't bring up earlier in the broadcast. Set the record, the program record. I was going to say franchise, but the Purdue men's basketball history for most assists in their program ever. Braden Smith
in a season.
In a season. Braden Smith as a sophomore. So pretty damn impressive from the young buck Braden Smith.
And also, just to add on, like, Braden didn't have like a terrible first half, but it wasn't like one of those like if Braden Smith played the first half the way he did, if he played that again in the second half, we like it would be like okay, he had whatever game, but that he can turn it on. He has that to him, and I've said it so many times. He just has that it factor of just he's a winner. It's just what he is. I love that he also like he'll get to his celebrations and stuff, and he hit the night today with the game winning 3, but. Braden Smith, in my 6 years of watching Purdue basketball, Braden Smith is my favorite Boiler of all time. That's for sure. I guess it's because I know where Kraig's going with his. So, like, I almost feel forced. Like, my game ball just, like, it just has to go to Edey, right?
You should have just stole it. You should have just stole it.
And then
I would have pivoted. I would have pivoted and doing what Joe's doing right now. But
so, yeah, I mean, it's Edey. And, we went over it. 28 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steal, 36 minutes, only 1 turnover. Like, yeah, and he does and then he just does everything he does defensively. For as much as I've said it a couple times, is like it felt almost like Purdue was fine only being down 6. Like it was like Illinois should have had a bigger lead. The only reason Purdue was only down 6 and in a very manageable deficit at that point was Zach Edey. 18 points in the first half, a 9 of 13 shooting, no free throw attempts, and then 5 rebounds to go along with it. Like he was the reason Purdue was in this game, and then like that's it. It just goes back to how many times has Bragg said it, especially where it's just like you have to pitch a perfect game to beat Purdue. That first half, maybe Illinois wouldn't say it was perfect, but it was fairly close. And where nobody aside from Edey stepped up, and now Edey just keeps them in the game long enough that now once everybody else steps up, Purdue's able to take advantage. And then obviously he has a fine second half too, 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. The game ball just has to be Edey at that point. It just does.
Yeah. No, I agree. So now that you guys have taken the 2 stars and I have
the layups, we took the layups. Now you take the half court heave.
I'm going to give my game ball tonight to a guy who had 0 points on 0 field goals.
That is 3 options.
And had, what's that?
There are 3 players that it could still be.
Okay. And had 2 rebounds on the night and 1 steal. I'm giving my game ball to Camden Heidi because of what I felt like he did defensively and how he changed the game defensively. I felt like every time he went out that Damas started to heat up and started to get going, and every time he came in that got squashed. And you guys know how this game is a game of runs, and I felt like every time Illinois started to get an offensive run going, that Cam was a big reason it got shut down. And then that allowed everybody else, whether it was Braden, whether it was Fletcher, whether it was Zach, whoever it was, or Mason Gillis, to go off offensively and get us back in this game, eventually to get us that lead. So I'm giving my game ball to a guy who had 0 points tonight, guys.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and Camden Heidi has done such a better job. I mean, when he first started getting some more serious minutes here early in the year, he was having trouble not fouling. He was fouling a little too much, and that would get him out of get him off the floor and get him out of some rotations. And tonight, I mean, I just put on full display just how well he's defending without fouling, which is a staple of a Matt Painter system. That's what they teach these guys, is to play hard but don't foul. There was a point in the second half that I thought showed a little bit of maturity where, at the top, Illinois has the ball at almost the half-court line in the corner, and he somewhat fumbles it, and I thought Camden was going to take the bait and try to dive for it and, try to make a play on the ball, but he might have tried to risk a little too much there, so he just stayed home, stayed straight up. The guy collected himself, but he stayed in front of his guy. I don't know. It was just one of those moments where I could tell he made that conscientious decision, like, I'm not going to overdo this. I'm not going to try too hard. I'm not going to try to play hero ball here. I'm going to stay true to what I'm doing and what I've been taught, and I'm not letting this guy get past me, and I'm not going to give him an inch by trying to sneak a steal here if it's trying to do too much. So, those are 50-50 moments where you got to make a decision, and I thought that was a mature decision there from Camden Heidi. So there's our game balls here tonight. Let's get into quickly some of the comments.
I have a
here.
fun stat before we get into comments. Really
Go
quick.
ahead.
So this is from at Boiler Uniforms on Twitter. I assume a lot of people know who they are. Does a great job keeping track of all sports Purdue uniforms if you're into that sort of thing. But puts out the stats. So with a win at Mackey on Sunday, Purdue can hit 17 conference wins for the first time ever in their history. And it would be the fourth time ever that a Big Ten team has got 17 Big Ten wins. It'd be joining 3 Indiana teams, 1993, 1976, and 1975. So we'll see. I don't know if Painter will go stray away from rotation at all, just trying to rest guys on senior night. But there is some history there to be played for. We'll see exactly what happens Sunday, though.
Yeah, 100%. It's a historical year here for the Purdue Boilermakers, and looking to get some more history on our side here in March. So yeah, let's get into some of the comments. We'll go through those. Follow us at Boilers in Stands on Twitter. And make sure you're liking and subscribing to our YouTube page as well. And you can follow us on Facebook, and you can find some of the content we put out there from the championship celebration, some great pictures and some great videos that we shared with you guys on there as well. So I'm going to run through some of these comments. Brad Prather, a longtime viewer of this show, says, "This was an awesome birthday for me today. Thank you, Boilers, and happy birthday to you, Brad. We appreciate you hanging out with us."
And I feel like Brad, when you find a band like right when they first start before they get bigger, I feel like Brad has been that fan like with us since the beginning, Greg, like way back in the early days. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. We appreciate our day ones. There's no doubt about it. So shout out to you, Brad. Happy birthday once again. A couple people from the chat saying Heidi was excellent tonight. Who's Johnny? Also echoing those sentiments. Our guy William Bill. This is a different team from last year, as he said earlier. Completely agree. Mad Sizz. Lawyer was huge in this game despite a couple mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen. It's how you recover from those and play through those and make the big plays to make up for mistakes. Jules Winfield, Cam Heidi going to be the answer in the tourney. My mom is in the chat talking about the celebration at Mackey Arena on Saturday night. The Purdue maintenance staff stayed at Mackey until 2 a.m. on Saturday night. We were still in the building doing a post-game show, and we appreciate, the hard workers at Mackey. We'll have to give them all a big hug as we leave for the final home game on Sunday against Wisconsin. Drake Hobbs, as we mentioned earlier, there's never a panic in this team. Here's my mom again, a.k.a. Barb Graham. Purdue's sophomores are making me so excited for the years ahead. Certainly, we're excited for that as well, with some big-time players coming in, including Kanan Catchings, who's going to get to assimilate to some pretty tough juniors, and Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and Braden Smith. That'll be a lot of fun to watch, but we got this year here still to enjoy. Jeff Nestor, undefeated against all top 25 teams, 8-0. Against top 25 this season, according to Jeff Nestor. Brian Bennett, this win ties Purdue's 87-88 team for the team record for the first 30 games at 27-3. A couple people in the chat seem pretty excited for the fact that Zach Edey did not allow free chicken nuggets to the Fighting Illini faithful tonight. Had a couple opportunities. They have kind of the similar deal that Purdue has. If somebody misses 2 free throws for the opposing team, they get free chicken nuggets. Purdue gets free chicken sandwiches. They were denied the free chicken nuggets tonight. So sorry about you to the Illinois students out there. Shelly Johnson, always listening on the drive home after the games. Our favorite drive so far, although after IU win was sweet. Thinking of that chicken sandwich. We appreciate you hanging out here, Shelly. And then Shelly also saying, loving autograph. Thanks for sharing it. Yes, definitely make sure you're signing up for autograph as we've been mentioning a few times during our show. There is the QR code, and if you want to sign up, use the promo code BITS when you do. And then we're going to continue to kick it around the horn. Blake Widmer asking, do we need any volunteer staff to carry around stuff for us at the Final Four? I would fly there to join in on the fun. We will be looking at an internship program. Blake, I don't know if we'll get to it this year, but we appreciate you'll always be under consideration because you're certainly one of our day ones here with the Boilers in the Stands program. Rob White saying, I have a man crush on him. Not sure who he's talking about, so I can only assume he's talking about Kraig. Ulamog saying hashtag Mason matters. Mason Gillis.
Yeah,
for sure.
that was what it was. I starred them in the wrong order. It was supposed to be Mason Matters, and then Rob White saying I have a man crush on him.
Okay, well, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Could be talking about Joe.
Maybe.
Kraig,
We got to catch Jeff Ryan too. We didn't pull his super chat up earlier in the show.
We did actually the free throw differential.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we did. But we'll give
bad.
Jeff Ryan another shout out. We appreciate Jeff hanging out, asking about the free throw differential. $9.99 super chat here from Jeff. Derek Mulligan saying, I'm a lawyer roller coaster rider. I didn't design the coaster, man, but I enjoy the highs and lows I enjoy the highs and lows, and I accept the lows. And when I'm something, he just ended it. I see Mike. Y'all are the best.
Hold on, Derek. We have to know what. Like, you can't just leave us on a cliffhanger like that.
No.
You got to finish the sentence. Derek, you got to finish the sentence.
Let's finish the sentence for him. I'm a lawyer roller coaster rider. I didn't design the coaster, man, but I enjoy the highs and I accept the lows. And when I'm eating a free chicken sandwich, I am at my peak of existence.
There it is. Yep. That was exactly where I was expecting you to take it.
But I enjoy the highs and I accept the lows. And when I'm watching Boilers in the Stands, my life is complete. That's probably what he was going to say.
I feel like that's it.
Yeah, Michael Meyer. Surprised you haven't. Yeah, Michael Myers. Yeah, look out. Surprised you haven't mentioned the most important stat. We kept Illini fans from getting free chicken nuggets. Yes, we did mention that earlier. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in here tonight. We've still got 2,200 strong watching across 4 different platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. We went a little long on this show because of it. It's been a lot of fun. Boilermaker here, 1,800 viewers on Twitter. We got, a solid group from YouTube that always tunes in. So we appreciate everybody hanging out with us here tonight. We're having a lot of fun with this, and March is going to be as fun as it gets. So, that's about it for me. I could do the Midwestern goodbye all day. I'm here at the CHGO Sports Studios getting ready to do a post-game show for the Chicago Blackhawks. They're getting ready to enter the third period, and they're winning 4-2, I believe, right now. So, this is where I do a lot of work during my daytime job covering the Chicago Bears here at CHGO Sports. And we're all awaiting what the Bears are going to do with their number 1 pick in Justin Fields. So a lot of fun to cover a team with championship aspirations and not just off-season dreaming as we typically do here in Chicago. So that's it for me as far as final thoughts. I really just think this is a time of year that we all need to embrace and stare dead in the face. I've said it many times. This, as a Chicago Cubs fan, I think there's a lot of symmetry between the Purdue Boilermakers and the Chicago Cubs. And when you talk about trying to slay some demons and overcome some curses or whatever you want to say, Purdue certainly has to climb that mountain, and it can be intimidating for the players, for the fan base, for the media that covers it. But every once in a while, you come across a team that's just different, that looks at that pressure in the face and shows the composure and fearlessness that you need to overcome that kind of pressure. And I do feel this team has that within them. So I'm excited for Purdue to overcome those things and give you guys, the fans, all what you've been waiting for your whole lives. So excited for March, and we'll see how it all plays out. But make sure you're tuned here at Boilers in the Stands for all the coverage. Do you guys got anything else before I close it down?
Yeah, just beyond the Cubs, if you grew up in a certain part of Indiana, you were probably a Chicago Cubs fan, an Indianapolis Colts fan, and a Purdue Boilermakers fan. And there was a long time that people thought that the Colts could never get around the Patriots and win a Super Bowl either. While they were in Indianapolis, and they did that. I'm watching that Tom Brady show on Apple TV right now, which I weirdly like. Shout out, Tom Brady. Love you as a partner. Love you as a partner. Yeah. But as a Colts fan, I weirdly like watching this documentary. It's super interesting. But the Colts got over that hump. They beat the Patriots. The Cubs got over that hump. They won a World Series. There's nothing that says that the Purdue Boilermakers can't do it either. I would just say, just give you guys a little bit of heads up. Next Tuesday at 7 p.m., we're going to be doing a show with Brian Tonsoni, who is on Assembly Call, but he also does Delphi bracketology. We're going to do a little bit of a potential bracket preview show before the Big Ten tournament. If I'm being honest, where Purdue is going to be in that bracket is already going to be locked up by the time we do that show. So it's not going to be a lot of guesswork around that, but we're going to talk about some other Big Ten teams. We're going to give out our Big Ten Player of the Year, like first team, all Big Ten, Defensive Player of the Year, that type of thing, awards. Talk about the Big Ten looking back in terms of surprises and maybe some teams that we were disappointed in heading away. So that ought to be a real fun show next Tuesday with Brian, Joe, hopefully Greg, depending on his schedule, and I.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Make it work. Joe, you got anything else before we call it a night?
I'm just gonna plug myself. I'm over on my YouTube, Feed the Post. I will have a Purdue versus Illinois film breakdown out tomorrow. I'll go through, 10, 15 plays, just kind of breaking down exactly how Purdue was able to beat Illinois. So look for that tomorrow. Most likely in the afternoon is when it will be out. Aside from that, we appreciate everybody tuning in. I also just hit 2,000 followers on Twitter, which is cool. So thank you to everybody that has tuned in. Really appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Painter is impressed by our night and our growth here on this channel. Thank you again to BJ Rule for your support here to this show. Make sure you're hitting him up for what your real estate needs, and we appreciate them. Of course, Fan Bags, our guy Brian Potter doing our thing, and he's been a longtime supporter to this program. And then, of course, Autograph. Use this QR code and use the promo code BITS when you sign up. It's a free app and really helps you get to all the different Purdue Boilermakers content you're looking for. And there's a lot of incentive. Have an opportunity to win Wisconsin tickets at a very discounted price here coming up on Sunday. So if you use that QR code, use the promo code BITS, they'll know you got it from us, and good luck to you on trying to win some tickets, and they're going to be doing some ticket giveaways as they get into March Madness as well. So shout out to Autograph and those guys for their sponsorship to our show. So I think that wraps things up for tonight. Purdue Boilermakers are your outright Big Ten champions. All smiles there in that picture from Mackey Arena on Saturday night. It's been a lot of fun to cover this team this season. Stay tuned for any special announcements on any shows before Sunday. Never know. Might pop up live, so keep your notifications on. Say subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure you're liking the show when it's over. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us. For Greg Braggs, I'm Greg Braggs. For Joe Jackson.
What?
I'm tired, man, and I got things to do. I don't want to hear it. Okay. For Greg, who's me? For Joe, who's you? And for Kraig, who's laughing. We appreciate everybody hanging out here tonight. We love you guys. And, always boiler up.